These are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast. This episode of the Six Ranch Podcast is brought to you by Defend Security Cameras.
Anyway, he invited me to come over, and I can't pass up that. And the weather's going to be good, and there's about that much snow over there, It's just like Enterprise, about 3,900 feet elevation.
Okay.
And
that's that ranch that Jim was doing all that research in?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he wrote the book on. Yeah.
Yeah, I had him on the show years ago to talk about that, but anytime we start to talk science, Jim shifts into numbers mode, and he forgets that we can tell stories about this stuff, and it's actually a little bit more interesting if you do.
Much more.
Yeah. Numbers have their place.
Have you ever talked to Holly?
A little bit in passing. Yeah.
She's an interesting gal too.
For sure.
Yeah, she really is.
So what were you doing to your airplane to get it ready?
Oh, just making sure I got everything into it, and refueling it. I like to go up there ahead of time before I fly. Nobody around.
Yeah.
Just me and the airplane. Don't get bothered. Take my time and do a good job.
Do you find that you get any extra water in your fuel in the wintertime?
Well, I had an example just the other day, actually. We get fuel here locally, and I dip it sump it every time before I fly. And the only time I've ever had fuel is I took it to Alaska, and it was exposed to the elements for, 20-some days, and I would regularly sump water out of it then.
Okay.
And there's 3 drains, one in each wing, and then one down below the engine.
Right.
And but the other day, speaking of water, and I was flying up by Troy looking at some property up there, and bluebird day, right? 40 degrees. And had a friend with me coming into Troy. I got down to my elevation. I wanted to fly up the Winaha, then turn up Crooked Creek, go up to First Creek and see some old places I used to patrol and stuff. And by the time I powered back, got down to my altitude, which was just below the benches, and I hadn't gone another minute. You ever heard of carburetor ice?
No.
In an airplane or helicopter engine?
No.
Well, when the temperature's just right, in that venturi, it changes the temperature in your carburetor.
Okay.
And if the dew point and the temperature are just right, it forms ice in there, which restricts the venturi, which, guess what? Restricts the fuel. And it felt like somebody tried to shove a softball into my carburetor. That engine started spitting and sputtering. And when you're in a canyon, you're fairly
low. Thank you to everyone who's taking the time out of their busy lives to write a review for the show and share it with their friends.
Ice, heat on, or
I'm extremely proud of how intelligent,
both came
engaged,
together, and you just
instinctively.
And I should have pulled it back.
Original music for the Six Ranch Podcast is written and performed by Justin Hay.
Of course, after
art for the Six
minute,
Ranch Podcast was created by John Shadowin and digitized by Celia Harlander. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
10 minutes later, Pat says, I just learned a valuable lesson. I said, well, I relearned a valuable lesson.
How many hours are you at right now?
Oh, a little over 2,300.
Is that sort of a danger zone for complacency for some of these things?
No, my brother was a Marine helicopter pilot, and he was on the rifle team you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But he told me the most dangerous pilot is one with 200 hours.
200 hours.
He said, Bill, at that point, he says, you think you know everything.
Yeah.
And of course, you're looking back on it, you don't know jack.
Right.
Because experience is the teacher up there, period.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know how to push all the switches, turn all the toggles on. Experience is the teacher.
We were talking about shotgunning before we started recording here, and everybody goes into shooting slumps, and you're in one right now for chukars. And chukars, it's the fastest game bird we have. If you're going to get humbled, that's a good one to get humbled by. I find a really interesting arc with shooters, and this doesn't apply to you, but it will to some folks out there in the audience. When you start shooting, you're overwhelmed by just the components, just like flying. It's like you don't know where to look at gauges and switches and all that stuff. And then you develop enough competency that you can start shooting, whether it's a bow, shotgun rifle, pistol, whatever. And as soon as they have that level of competence, people tend to shoot pretty well. And then they get to this next stage and they start shooting worse. And what I've come to realize is that the beginning shooter who's competent at the process is still trying to hit the target. And at the next stage, they're trying to do the process correctly. And I find that very interesting. There's probably a metaphor in there for a few other things, but
I'm sure.
Yeah. But like you're talking about those birds that flushed up close to you the other day, and you already had in your mind that you're going to shoot 2 of them.
Minimum, maybe more.
You got to hit at least one, like start with one. Yeah.
Well, I'm a point shooter. You see a deer, elk, whatever you're shooting at. I don't shoot the animal. I pick a spot on that animal.
Yeah.
It's just like a golf ball. I pick a dimple out that I want to hit. And even when I'm on the computer, when I'm cursoring, and it says remove or replace, I try to pick a spot like in the middle of the A or something like that. Yeah, just a thing I got going.
A little extra precise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these chukars got me baffled this year.
Yeah.
I really think a lot of it's mental at this point with me.
Oh, of course.
I truly believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know how to shoot.
I think I do.
Yeah.
See, that's that mental part coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're gonna crush them tomorrow. I just got a picture this morning of some buddies down in Nevada, and they had just a tailgate full of birds. They had a good old shoot down there.
Really?
Yeah. Good to see people getting out and about. I spent the morning trying to shoot a cougar. There's a cougar that's been working over our bighorn sheep up here in the mountains. And Vic told me in October, might have been September, Vic said, "Oh, you got to get up there and shoot that lion." I was like, I'm guiding right now. Like, I can't hardly take time off from, the other big game to go cougar hunting. But this time of year, I'm all about it. I spent a whole week out lion hunting a couple of weeks back, and then heard about this cougar back and killing sheep. And, went up there in the dark and tried. Nothing would stick its head out, and dropped down into this thick timber and found this ewe that was collared and ear tagged. And it was kind of interesting. Where I first cut the track, I was really unsure that I was actually on the track. And then I saw a big strip of fresh bark that had come off of a tree. Something hard hit that. That must have been a horn. And it just looked a little bit matted on the frost, but it was, like I said, in this north, in this tight timber where everything was just frozen, really hard. And followed down, down country about where I'd go if I was trying to drag something with my mouth. And sure enough, we found it down there. But
was that an active collar? I mean, did they know it was in the fatal mode?
Yeah. So I pulled the collar and the ear tag and took pictures and stuff like that. And I think, they'd seen a lion up there recently, and they're pretty confident that that's what it was. So it's not like it needed an investigation. And sure enough, I mean, you could see the throat ripped out of it, and lion tracks right there, no other tracks. Like, it's just what it is. But
young cat?
It's a bigger lion.
Bigger?
Yeah. I'm not the guy that can look at a track and tell you how much that cat weighs. I just haven't got to do it enough. But it was a bigger track. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, chukar hunting the other day. I won't tell you where I was at, but 2 wolf tracks, a big cougar track. All in probably a 6-7 mile hike.
Yeah, we've got a wolf that's been cruising between your place and my place here the last few weeks.
Yeah, Vic told me there was one up by the Frolander place up here just the other day too.
Yeah, he was. I had his tracks right down next to the highway, next to Mom's house a couple weeks back.
Really?
So
They're not afraid.
well, why would they be?
You got it.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully when the county court presents that to the Fish and Wildlife Commission, their proposal to allow them to manage cougar or wolves here in Oregon, maybe we'll make a little bit of headway finally.
You know, I truly believe that if we completely pulled the stops out and you know, classified wolves like a coyote, where it's, you know, all you got to have is a hunting license, year round, no limits, I don't think we could even reduce the population.
You know, I've always said that about coyotes. There'll be a coyote when every human being is gone off this earth. You know?
Yeah.
And yeah, if they open up the doors on wolves right now, I believe that we wouldn't even scratch them.
Yeah.
Right now, towards that point.
Without 100 years of bounties that included poisoning, we wouldn't have done it the first time. And this wolf we have now is bigger and smarter. It's really, I don't know. It's a tough scene. Something obviously needs to be done, and I do think that hunting will help keep wolves away from places where they're going to be in increased conflict with livestock and people. They don't need to be down in the valley. They don't need to be around people's houses. They don't need to be in the livestock.
Well, there's a place for those critters, and you know, I admire them as much as anybody else. But like I said, there's a place for them, and you know, around this valley isn't one of them.
Yeah.
You know, I told people before the wolves were even introduced to Oregon, up here on the slope, that talked to me when I was working. You know, what do I do if I see a cougar? I said, shoot it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got kids, you got pets. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm hoping that'll come to the situation with wolves.
Yeah.
We can back them up into the correct backyard.
What was going on with cougar hunting here in, you know, the 70s and 80s? What do you remember about that time with cougar hunting? When
there was a lot of people
warden?
that pursued those cats, and some very, very good houndsmen. And we had, unfortunately, there were some houndsmen that, you know, were on the wrong side of the line. But they, you know, other than Hell's Canyon, and there was a few people that even went into Hell's Canyon with dogs. Of course, what happens in there, you lose a dog, you know. But no, the rest of our units, I'm talking the Imnaha, even the northern side of the Mindham unit, Sled Springs, was hunted heavy for cats. Yeah. And it was, and they did well. You know, they combined it with bobcat hunting, you know, at the same time. Back then, the price of bobcats was really good. You know.
It's pretty good again this year.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. No, I think there's bobcats that are selling for over $2,000.
Oh my
a lot
Lord.
of them $1,200, $1,500. But Eastern Oregon has the best bobcats that there are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Highly sought after. The only spotted hide or spotted fur that is legal to sell in the U.S.
Really?
is a bobcat.
Huh, I didn't know that.
And ours have, you know, these big white bellies with real black spots, lots of contrast. And
Right.
I guess that's what the Cruella de Villes of the world who are.
They want those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, you know, the bobcat population isn't hurting. And it's a very regulated harvest. So in Eastern Oregon, a fur bearer license holder can get 5 a year.
Wow.
And in Western Oregon, I don't know if it's even limited or it's like 20 or 30. Like it's crazy over there, but their cats aren't of as high a value.
Man, I don't want I kept count of all the cougars I've seen, you know, since I've been in the county, and I'm at 17 right now.
17 is what you've seen.
Seen.
In how many years?
Almost 50.
Yeah.
Almost 50 years.
Have you ever seen one when you're flying?
Not a cougar.
Yeah.
I have not seen a cat from the air.
Yeah. That'd be a tricky critter to spot.
Oh, the color is, you know, it's like my Brittany dog, brown and white out there, and they're hard to see.
Yeah.
You know. And, you know, wolves are pretty easy to see from the air. I've seen a fair number of them, you know. But, yeah, I've never seen a cat from the air.
A lot of our wolves are black, about 70%. Last I heard.
Hence, easy to see.
Yeah, yeah, big black dog on big white snow.
I know a gentleman years ago that treated a cougar with an airplane.
How did you manage that?
I don't know. But I would love to have seen it being on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's frustrating? You've got 20 acres and your security camera can see about 50 feet from your Wi-Fi router. Your gate, your barn, your equipment, all the places you actually need to monitor, they're exactly where your Wi-Fi doesn't reach. That's where Defend security cameras make a lot of sense. They work on cellular, just like your phone. But here's what's clever. They've got an embedded SIM card that automatically connects to the best network in your area. Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. It finds whatever's strongest. No choosing providers, no contracts, no hassle. I'm using Defend cameras at my place. You mount it, open the Defend app on your phone, and you're done. 10 minutes. Clear footage, night vision, instant alerts, and here's something you need to know. Defend doesn't sell your data. Not to China, not to tech companies, not to anyone. They work for you, period. Defend your place. Well, I don't like hearing that you had kind of a spooky experience in your airplane, but what's another lesson that you learned in flying almost the hard way?
Have you ever had vertigo?
Not while flying, no.
I've had it both in a pickup driving and in an airplane.
Yeah.
And the last time, I've had it 2 times flying, and you literally do not know up and down. And my brother, who was a helicopter pilot in the Marines, he always told me he was flying a sortie out of San Diego one night going into Nevada, and flying along, him and 2 or 3 other helicopters, and pitch black, took a pen out of his pocket, dropped it, and it went 90 degrees the opposite way. I mean, sideways. In his mind, sideways. Anyway, long story short, he told me, Bill, believe your instruments. You know, your mind will screw with you.
Right.
But those instruments won't, in most cases. And I was flying into Joseph, come out of Hell's Canyon, big bank of fog. Couldn't land at Enterprise. There's some gentlemen taking off from Joseph, and I was coming out of Hell's Canyon, and I called them. I said, hey, what's the weather like up there? And they says, well, if you're going to come to Joseph, you better hurry up. Well, you don't hurry up at 170. It's going when it's going to go.
You get there when you get there.
And so they found a hole and got out, and I got over Enterprise in Joseph, and it was just socked in. And I just come over Midway out in Zumwalt, and it was opened up still. So I went around. I was flying on the north side of the while I was there, and Joseph was on my instruments, was just right there. And I thought, well, I'll just, and I knew there was probably a 300-400 foot ceiling, so I was just going to drop down. And I've got my instrument rating. And so I started dropping down through the clouds. And as soon as I got into that whiteout scenario, I got vertigo. I didn't know up from down. Of course, I keyed in on my certain instruments, my scan, but I hadn't flown instruments for a long time. And my airplane was getting away from me. I mean, my cage and my altitude indicator rolled, which meant Bill went upside down, you know. And I've always told people, if something happens to me upstairs, just let my airplane go, and it'll fly. It'll erect itself, and it'll fly. It'll kind of porpoise, but and I just put some pretty expensive mods on this airplane. All I could think of was all this money burning down by Joseph, you know, in this heap of metal. And so I let the airplane go. I just turned it loose. And
you're within 300 feet of the ground?
I come out of the clouds, and I was about probably 500-600 feet max.
Wow.
And of course, I just pulled up, and I went back up through the clouds, and I went out to Zumwalt at Midway and landed the airplane on the Zumwalt Road, and it spent 3 days out there. And I called my wife up. We had cell service out there, thank goodness. And she came out and got me, and I covered my airplane all up and stuff, and she goes, why in the hell? What'd you do? You know, she was pissed. I said, honey, it was just me. And she looked at me like, you dummy. You didn't hear what you just said?
Yeah.
You know, but it's something I wouldn't have done with somebody else. But anyway, it
worked out.
It worked out okay. Yeah. But lesson learned, number 741, you know.
So I've gotten that disorientation spearfishing a few times in blue water,
Oh, really?
way out in the ocean. And when you drop down, to me, like 60 feet, if I've got something else to focus on, like a fish, or, you know, I'll throw out these throw flashers, like a little piece of PVC pipe with shiny stuff on it. And I'll kind of follow that down and see if a fish is going to come in and check it out. And if you've got that thing to focus on and you're good and relaxed, then the time starts to warp a little bit. And in the water without gravity, like what's up, what's down, and spearfishing is different from all the other forms of hunting because you are in the middle of a sphere. Like the thing can happen anywhere around you.
Right.
And so you're looking around, and as you get deeper, the sky is maybe a little bit shiny up there, maybe a little bit brighter, but it's mostly just blue all the way around you.
Huh.
And there's been a couple times that I've like leaked out a bubble to see which way it goes, and then say, "All right, I'll follow you."
Good idea.
Yeah.
But to those people out there that are pilots or want to be pilots, if you get into a situation like that, what I did wrong, and I critique that for 2 years after the fact, but what you do, you get on your instruments before you get into the clouds.
Yeah.
You're not, you're not looking back trying to, but yeah, I should have been on those instruments a minute before I went into them. And of course, yeah, you got this rating, I can do this. Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't use it regularly, yeah, you'll learn I almost learned a real valuable lesson.
Yeah. So. I tell people that about hiking hills. If you're hiking on flat ground and you can see that you're about to start hiking on steep stuff, you go ahead and start breathing harder early. You know you're going to need it. Like, let's just stack some of this oxygen in now while it's free, and that might get you an extra 10 steps farther before you are starting to run into a deficit. But I think, getting ready for the problem as soon as you can see it coming is a good idea in any situation.
Yeah. We've had part of the state police test was a physical test.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen quite a few people come in there that are very well built, good shape, and they start doing I think we had to do 50 push-ups. I think what it was back then. And these young fellas would come in there and they'd get to about 25, 30, and they couldn't do no more. And what they did, they quit breathing.
Oh yeah.
They literally quit breathing.
Yeah.
And didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it with shooters all the time.
They could have done 100 push-ups.
Yeah. Especially on an animal, guys will, and archer shooters are probably the worst. They're under all this physical pressure of holding their bow back.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're on the range and, I see that they might have some issues going on based on what the arrows are doing on the target, I'll look at how their anchor point is and how they're holding the bow. And, if there's any dramas there, I'll also look at the rib cage. And a lot of these guys aren't breathing while they're at full draw, and they're making that clock spin a lot faster if they're not breathing. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. No, pretty important.
Yep.
In your time as a game warden, did you ever have like a nemesis, like just somebody that you were always trying to catch that was evading you?
I really didn't. I mean, there was people that I heard about, from other people. Hey, Bill, you need to catch this guy. He's doing this. He's doing that. I tried not to unifocus like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you kind of miss some things in the periphery. I mean, we had some special operations where we keyed on a group of people, that were doing stuff that they were supposed to, But no, I try to be open-minded, Jay.
Yeah.
And I mean, every community, every group of hunters, they have those, the 5%ers, that just won't abide by the laws. And the intentional people, those ones I enjoyed catching.
Yeah.
The people out there, I'll tell you, 90% of the people or more are really good folks out there, period. But they're opportunists. some of them, and they just can't pass up that opportunity to shoot something, that they shouldn't, They don't do it intentionally, but just they can't say no to it.
Some people just kind of glitch out, and very rational, dialed in people make crazy decisions if you put an animal in front of them.
It's I used to think elk brought the worst out in a person, but water rights tops elk.
Yeah. Whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
I've seen people do some crazy things over elk. I mean.
So let me ask you this. Did you see crazier stuff on cow elk hunts or bull elk hunts?
I enjoyed working cow elk hunts.
Yeah.
Cow hunters were fun to work because some people thought, one tag's good for 2 or 3 elk, cow elk,
Yeah.
And so they played that game, Bull hunters, I've seen some crazy things with bull hunters, especially, when you get 2 people shooting at the same bull. Well, I killed it. No, he killed it, blah, blah, blah. And you walk up there and you look at it, and now you're the referee. You're not just a game warden, but you're a referee.
Rock, paper, scissors.
And okay, where were you? Where were you? Where was the elk? And I let them see this scenario here. I draw it in the snow or wherever it happens to be. But okay, there's a bullet on this side, right?
Yeah.
Well, how can this guy, put a bullet, an entry wound on the opposite side? Anyway, I'd say most of them we worked out. A couple of them we just had to say, this is yours, and
Well, back in the day when tags were over the counter and there essentially were no units, you could hunt the whole state.
Right.
There were sayings that went around like, leave your rifle at home, just bring your tag and your tennis shoes. And there's definitely people that subscribed to that who, would try and put their tag on a animal that they knew good and well that they didn't shoot.
Well, I've made several phone calls to wives over on the west side and talking to them on the phone opening day of deer season. And anyway, obviously their tag's on a buck over here in Wallowa County.
Yeah.
And, did you shoot a deer today? She goes, well, I'm in Medford, Oregon, or I'm in wherever,
Pretty long shot, about 400 miles, arced it over the Cascades.
That was fairly common,
Yeah.
Things like that. Or they had a pre-written note in the wallet giving, Johnny permission to transport my buck deer.
Premeditated.
Then, I had one case, that was, anyway, he had his wife's tag on a deer, and I cited him for it. Well, later on that day, and I didn't know where they were camped, but later on that day we came into a camp. Nobody was there, and I just kind of kicked through the ashes in the fire, and there were some chukar bones in the fire. Chukar season wasn't open yet. And so we went off on our patrol, come back, and the group of people were there, 6 or 8 of them. Well, one of them happened to be the gentleman I'd cited earlier that day. And I confronted everybody out there around the campfire. And when I asked them about the chukar, they just all got quiet. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop in that camp. And I said, okay, gentlemen, I says, I guess I'm going to be citing all of you. And they started pointing over at this tent. And so I went over this tent. Well, the gentleman I'd cited earlier was asleep in the tent. And they didn't say he did it, but they just pointed that direction. And I went in there and I kicked his boots, and he woke up. He looked at me with this, what the hell are you doing, look on his face. And I said, hey, I'm just here to talk to you about the chukars again. And he just hung his head, And I had an ODFW fellow with me, and we got him out of the tent and was talking to him. I said, hey, I hate giving anybody 2 tickets. So give me the one with your wife's tag back and just take this one here, And the ODFW guy was so mad at me for not hammering him twice, He was an okay guy, but obviously there was a lot of premeditation there. And I probably should have let him have both of them, but I'm a pretty soft guy at times. So,
did you ever find, or I guess, how would you balance out whether a warning is going to have a bigger impact or a ticket? Like I've heard studies about that. I'm sure it's a person by person case, but how did you make those judgment calls?
It's a gut feeling, James. It's totally and I truly believe a warning most of the time will outweigh a citation 10-1. Not all the time. This gentleman I just talked about with a chukar and his wife's deer tag on a deer, he deserves some paper,
Mhm.
period, And, but there's times when, like in the Snake River, people floating down through there on a jet boat and they're fishing on the Oregon side or they don't have a fishing license. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you a warning, but I'm going to give you 10 days to send me a copy of this license that you say you have to me. And the ones that honestly have the license, you can see this relief come over them, and they also, you can tell that they really appreciate it. I mean, they truly appreciate it. But and I'll tell you what, 99% of the time, I got that copy of that license in the mail.
Yeah.
And there's a few of them. There's some good liars out there, but not very many of them. I'd always tell people when I'm working on a case, I said, you're not a very good liar. And they look at you like this. I said, that's a compliment. That's a true compliment, So
I read an interesting book about lying and sort of how lying is actually socially important. It's important that some people lie about some things. I guess everybody lies about something at some point. But it's also very important that we oftentimes, talking about like big society, accept those lies and what it would look like if we didn't. And the only people who are really good at catching liars are people who go into it assuming that they're about to get lied to, which is typically law enforcement. And it's kind of a tough way to live. So if that's your work life where, you think that there's a pretty good chance that somebody's going to lie to you and you have to be ready for that so that you can catch it. How do you come home and, have like a normal relationship with your wife and with your kids and with your friends where you might have to let that guard down just so that you can enjoy being around people?
That's interesting you asked that because when I was working, probably midway through my career, maybe a little on the uphill side of it, we had 2-day seminars on talking about just that thing you're talking about. How do you come home and be a father, a husband, an uncle, Because I've been sitting at, Friday night parties or weekend parties with friends, and apparently I'm interrogating these people and I don't know it.
Oh.
Or thinking they're going to lie to me.
Right.
And they look at me like, Bill, you're not a policeman. You're not at work right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a real thing. It truly is a real thing. And,
do you remember anything that they taught at those seminars that you found helpful?
That's been a long time ago, James.
Yeah.
But I just remember going to them and they were spot on. I don't like to go to those kind of classes, because I can handle this type of thing. But no, it was very productive for me.
Yeah.
At least it brought it to the forefront of my mind. Like, hey, Bill, you are a policeman and you need to learn how to turn that switch, at least tune it down, dial it down.
Yeah, I know it's tough. And especially in these rural places, one of the things that makes me like really feel for our law enforcement, they're seeing members of our community on the worst day of their life a lot of times. And then they're going to see them again at the grocery store and they're going to see them at the gas station.
Oh, yeah.
And, they're going to see them at church and at high school football games.
Yeah.
It's got to be tough just to be kind of packing that burden of knowledge and having those situations where it's, they know what you know and you remember it, but you're just going to try and act like everything's normal right now.
It's an act sometimes, but, in a small community, people thought I would pinch my own mother. Maybe I would. I don't know.
Depends on what she was up to.
That's right.
How many chukars did she shoot that day?
But you got to be consistent. In not only a small community, but any community you work as a police officer. You can't show favoritism to Joe and Mary and Pete and then hammer, Johnny and the rest of the folks down the road for the same thing. The respect in the community that you work in, you'll lose it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Period. And as you rightly should.
Yeah. How do you balance earning respect versus trust?
When I first came to Wallowa County, this was a dream job for me. Of course, I wanted to be a game biologist, didn't get that job. But I looked around this community and for people who the community, I was new. I was absolutely new. People didn't know me or my wife, but I looked around this community as to who people looked up to, and there was a half a dozen people, both men and women. I could tell that woman has a lot of respect in this community. And so I kind of modeled my dealings around how this gentleman, this lady acted. I didn't have a lot of good role models as a kid growing up in my family, but yeah, and most of them are passed on right now that I looked up to back then, but I tried to emulate them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I kind of, and most of them, I remember, and I think I told you this on the last podcast, that gentleman that backed me up one night about midnight on the Imnaha Highway.
Yep.
With a rifle, he was one of the fellows I looked up to,
Mm-hmm.
and, I'd do that for anybody, because that kind of, that's how you build respect. You can talk about respect all you want, but you got to earn it, period.
What's the closest you felt like you ever got to getting in a gunfight?
I never worried about that kind of stuff when I was working, because if you did, you weren't worth beans out there. And now, these young police officers got to have 10 police officers behind them to, before they'll search a car, search a pickup, whatever it is.
Game warden's all alone.
95% of the time.
Yeah.
But that's changing. There's so much, I don't know what it is. These are different people, different police officers, game wardens nowadays. Just talking to a friend of mine the other day who was an ODFW for many, many years. I learned ODFW now doesn't even have signage on their vehicles. They don't wear uniforms. So when they're out in the hills, and I think it's a safety factor for them, I think if it got way overboard personally, because I think the people who are utilizing resources out there need to know that the state police, the ODFW is out there working and will help them, answer questions, whatever. But if they see a rig out there, they don't know who it is. They don't know ODFW or OSP's out there. To me, that's wrong. That's not the way to handle conservation out in the hills. But, I've had a few situations where I've had to draw my pistol and stuff, but I've never shot at anybody, but yeah, you can't worry about that stuff.
That can be a tough situation to try to de-escalate over the top of your gun sights.
You just got to keep your head,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most of these people that get into those situations, have a real bad scenario or time part of their life. And, you're there to help them. I'd shoot this son of a bitch if I had to.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But if I don't have to, I'm going to try to help him. Right?
Yeah. Fred Steen was really good about that. He got in some tough situations where, and this is a, former Willow County sheriff, very, I'd go so far as to say a stereotypical, like, Western small town sheriff. Fred's great. And he definitely got in some situations where he had every right to press that trigger, and he found ways not to. Huge amount of respect to him for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a gentleman one night, I think it was a suicide by police is looking back on what it was, but we had red dots all over us.
Mm-hmm.
We were laying in the borrow pit there, and we could have shot at this guy numerous times, but, we didn't, which I think was a good call. But boy, I tell you what, like you said, you could have really easily and been justified.
It's a tough situation to try to de-escalate once you've kind of cleared leather and taken that step where there's only one next thing. Yeah. It's tricky. I got into probably just one situation in Afghanistan like that, and it didn't go to shots. I'm very grateful for that, because
Really?
I don't ever want to be on CNN, and I would have been the next day had that escalated, one way or another. But yeah, it's interesting.
It's not in your favor when that happens. Whether you're justified or not, things have turned around so much nowadays, and that's what I really feel for all these officers, both men and women out there working. Number one, they pack so much crap on their body,
Mm-hmm.
It's not for their well-being. It's for the bad guys' well-being. you know, and they'll use that against the police officers nowadays. Yeah, it's totally wrong in my mind.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the scenario. Somebody is out hunting or fishing, and a game warden comes up, asks them a question about, you know, some violation that they may have committed. And it was innocent enough. They didn't know that they're in the wrong, but they become immediately aware of it. What's the best thing that they should do at that point?
Well, I want to preface, you know, I should have even prefaced this at the first or beginning of our interview. I'm giving you 25-year-old information. I've been retired 25 years.
Yeah, that's okay. That's the information I want.
But, you know, honesty will never hurt you.
Yeah.
Period. And that's why I tell people, I'd say 75% of the people I talk to, I knew they were lying to me.
Yeah.
But I'd let them talk it through. And that's when I give them that paraphrase, hey, you're not a very good liar.
Yeah.
You know, and their eyes tell you a lot, tell you immense amount of information. But no, it's hard to be honest at times because people, I mean, myself and other human beings have a tendency to be right, want to be right, and you want to lie if it protects you. But no, honesty goes a long way. I mean, it's, what do I want to say? It's nice to see somebody that's honest.
Yeah.
They may have been wrong, but they're honest, you know, and hence the warning versus citation there.
Yeah.
That may be the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Bad news doesn't get better with time. You just got to take it on the chin sometimes, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It'll be okay. And yeah, you might get a fine. But I think that it's important for people to understand that whether it's a wildlife violation or something on the street, like that's not court. That's not your time to fuss about it. Like just, you know, that is your greatest opportunity to be compliant. And if you do have a genuine issue about it, the time for that is going to be later on in a courtroom. And you're going to get that opportunity in America. It is a guaranteed right.
Period. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm curious what it was like in the 70s when it was, you know, over the counter tags, and we had this massive influx of hunters coming from, a lot of them coming from Portland and from the west side. But people described Chesnim like it was a city, and kids would go out there and go trick or treating because there were so many camps. The grocery stores I know used to prepare more for that influx of hunters during hunting season than they would for like major tourist events like the rodeo.
Oh yeah. I can remember sitting up in my high school or my junior high class in Pendleton, Oregon, during English class, watching, you know, literally bumper to bumper elk hunters heading to, I'm going to say Wallowa County, but they were heading east. And I no more learned English, you know, during that 2-day period than, you know, anybody.
Yeah.
But Irv Nuss's 76 station down here, he had to line up 8-10 vehicles, you know, elk hunters getting fuel there on the corner.
Wow.
Which is now Leo's restaurant. Yeah. But when you're working out there in Chesnim, and Chesnim's a real good example, it's actually one of the reasons why we went to a limited entry, other than bull survival, but was a safety feature out there. Opening morning, you don't walk out in the meadow. I mean, when the bullets started flying, and I say bullets, I'm talking, you could hear, 40 shots. And you're on your belly or behind the log. Then you raise your head up, you know, and unfortunately we go out and salvage the cows, you know, out in that herd of elk. But, yeah, we had 17 cows hanging up at Thomason Guard Station one morning. You know, that was by 10 o'clock in the morning. And, but no, it was dangerous, absolutely friggin' dangerous. Why somebody didn't get shot? I mean, people did get shot.
Were you ever on any of those cases where
yeah.
hunters were accidentally shot?
Yeah, I had one gentleman in Snake River unit, him and his buddy, horseback hunters. And this one, this is his brother, actually. He was riding a horse, going up the side of around a thicket. And his brother, in his mind, he's seen this animal moving, and it was a bull elk. He pulled up and shot his brother in the buttocks. Didn't kill him, hurt him, but in his mind, he's seen a bull elk.
That's going to make Thanksgiving awkward.
Very. I mean, that boy's probably. I mean, he's got a lifetime limp.
Both legs.
Oh, but yeah, and it's funny. Another gentleman was gutting his bull out, and he had red on, bull was down, and another hunter who he didn't know looked over there, seen these antlers, and shot this guy, but he hit his knife, while he was skinning it.
No way.
Yeah, and we took him for reckless and stuff like that. But nice guy. He was a radio announcer out of the Eugene area, but just was overtaken by the elk, and your mind will do funny things to you,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was not a fun situation for him. I feel sorry for him.
That confirmation bias, I think might be the right thing, but it might be something else. If you want to be seeing an elk, your brain can really easily misinterpret what you're actually seeing, and that's that kind of glitch mentality that I was talking about earlier, where people kind of just short out and do really crazy stuff. But one of the weapon safety rules, which there are not many of them that you need to follow, but one of them is know your target and what lies beyond it. And this is one that I see hunters drop the ball on a lot. And I'll see people that handle their guns safely, right? They're keeping it on safe. They're keeping their finger off the trigger. But I still see videos of people taking shots on skylines where they don't know what's beyond it, where people are shooting through brush and things like that. Something that was really difficult for me when I first hunted in Africa, I'd been taught to never, ever shoot through brush. Like, that's really what we're taught here.
Exactly.
Well, if you go to Tanzania and you think that you're going to shoot anything without shooting through brush, you're going to shoot nothing. And one of the reasons that those guys use great big bullets over there is so that they can shoot through brush and keep their bullet going straight.
I'll be doing it.
In a month of hunting over there, I never shot an animal that I could see the entire animal. They were always obscured by brush. And sometimes the part that I was aiming at was obscured by brush.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be never going to Tanzania.
Well, it's an interesting thing, right? There, like, you're the only hunters around, right? You're the only people around. It's a different situation, but it's kind of a forcing factor. But I still will come back to the point of, please know your target and what lies beyond it, and you should also know what's to the left and right of it. Like, keep some situational awareness, because that tunnel vision that people get, they just zoom in on one little thing. Well, that little thing might be what you want it to be and not what it actually is. I know there's a guy, and I think there was a law built around this maybe. There was a guy that was shot in Idaho not too awful long ago, and he was just walking up a trail, and a guy just pulled up and shot him at like 30 yards. And I think he survived and ended up getting flown out of there. Of course, Kathy Baird, local lady, got shot over there, and I think they wrote a law around that as well to make it so that it was a more serious crime to accidentally shoot somebody while hunting.
Well, right here in Wallowa County, we've had wives shot, quote unquote, accidentally.
Yeah,
which one of them, I guarantee, was an accident.
Really?
Couldn't prove it.
Really?
They used the guise of hunting as their defense.
So the Chieftain is our local newspaper that's was in print for a very, very long time, and they used to run these little articles of like what was happening 100 years ago, 70 years ago. I read one from, I think, the 30s or 20s, and there was multiple people during the same week who had been accidentally shot and were going to court over it. And it seems like there was like a cultural thing going on for a while of people using hunting to go out and try and commit murder. A little bit wild.
Well, it hasn't quit yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people who are up to no good are going to find ways to do it regardless of the
Period.
medium.
I totally agree. Yeah.
I want to hear your chukar recipe.
Oh, Judy, I'm not a cook. I can do camp cooking, but I leave the cooking at home to her. She's phenomenal. I like sweet and sour chukar.
Okay.
And then a white sauce in a crock pot all day.
Yeah.
One chukar will feed Judy and I. Last year I put 50 of them in the freezer. This year I got 6, and I only got 2 weeks to go. So I need to live it out here quite a while. There's quite a few times. But no, that's the main ways we eat our chukars. Yeah.
Have you ever put them in dill pickle juice?
No.
That's pretty good.
Pre-cooking?
Yeah, before cooking.
Really?
Yeah, just marinate them in dill pickle juice and kind of hammer them out with a mallet and make a chuck filet sandwich. Pretty good.
Darn.
Yeah, pretty good.
Cool.
Works great on chicken. Works great on, I think, any of those white game birds. Works really good.
Well, I have a lot of pickle juice because I get cramps, and I'll get up in the middle of the night and chuck half a cup of pickle juice down real quick.
Works great, doesn't it?
It works real good.
Like instantly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an old school technique. Speaking of something that's going on in textiles right now that I find interesting is the finish that they're putting on a lot of stuff that they call DWR, durable water resistant finish. That, you get a new jacket and the first rain on it, the rain just kind of beads up and rolls off. That's what that finish is. And then some of the actual components of the textiles are getting banned in different states, and turns out they're really not good for us. And it's all around the waterproof fabric. Gore-Tex is one of them. Like these things are numbered, both the DWR finish and Gore-Tex and all these breathable waterproof fabrics.
I have not heard about that.
The days are numbered. So you grew up during a time where none of that existed. It was more of like a wool and leather type of situation, tin cloth, stuff like that. If you had to go back to the gear that you grew up with, what kind of stuff would you be looking for? Because there's a strong likelihood that that's our future as well.
Just go to my closet right now and you'll see lots of wool.
Lots of wool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old Mackinaws, things like that. Yeah. Yeah, there are so many brands nowadays that are commercializing hunting, to sell clothing, and stuff like that I just kind of snicker at it.
Yeah.
I know what works for me, what has worked for me. I think I've worn about 7, 8, 9 pairs of Danners out. I love their Air Bob soles. That's for traction. That's the epitome for me.
Danner's a lovely Oregon company.
Yes, it is.
They buy a lot of American leather too.
Do they?
I got to tour their factory years ago, and they have a machine. All their leather are split hides, right? And they have a machine that will analyze these hides and find any thin spots, brands, scars, anything like that.
Oh my God.
And then it will automatically figure out the highest number of patterns for different boots that it can cut out of it. And then it'll laser etch those and cut those out so that they're maximizing every piece of leather that goes through there. And
that's cool.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's neat.
I even take my old Danners back to them and they rebuild them. Done that to 2 pairs of mine.
Yeah.
I did find out I had 2 pairs that had been rebuilt by Danner, and I keep them in my basement, keep them greased up down there. And I went down there to go check around, grabbed 2 boots there, got out hunting. One boot kind of felt a little different. Well, one boot has bobs and the other has Vibrams. I had one of each.
So that was your set for walking on a left-hand side hill?
It changed that day. You're right.
That's funny. So if you could only hunt one critter for the rest of your life, would it be chukar?
Chukar to me is a cheap life insurance policy, James. It's kept me in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, you got to move around in some tough country.
But I
find those
love
things.
hurting a muley buck
Yeah.
in the rim rocks. That's
Yeah.
my epitome. I just love doing that, glassing and stalking and stuff. But chukars rank a real close second.
Up there where I was lion hunting this morning, which was pretty high elevation, I saw a mule deer fawn. It's the first fawn.
High?
It's the first fawn I've seen in the backcountry in years. It was with two does, and when they saw me, they lit out and ran every inch of a mile and went out of sight. Like they're scared for their lives, but they're alive. It was refreshing to see an actual mule deer fawn surviving in January.
Huh. We had 10 muleys up at our 11, and they now have 4 fawns. They started out with 8, and this is the middle of January.
Yeah,
and they do a circuit up there, and they come through our place about every 5 or 6 days.
Yeah,
I'm keeping track of their fawns.
Have you ever had lions right there at your house?
I think I told you the story about my other Brit before this one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
6 months old, went out my back porch, 4 yards, and a cougar took her right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do.
Yeah. Have you had any in recent years?
Just tracks.
Yeah.
No, but nothing on the property.
Does it seem to be a specific time of year that you're seeing those tracks come through? I mean, with snow, obviously, but
obviously the snow. Yeah. And I do some both snowshoeing and cross country skiing up there on the slope too. So
mm-hmm.
Don't cover as much ground as I used to, but a little bit.
If you could change anything about wildlife management today, what would it be?
Get rid of some of this crap that these guys have to wear on their bodies. But the thing I preach to these young officers is, get out of that pickup. Number one, get out of the office, get away from the computer, then get out of the pickup. Go hiking. I built up a lot of respect over the years because I've been able to talk to people these last 25 years that thought I chased them,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them I did. But they love seeing you out of that vehicle, a little sweat on your brow.
Was shed hunting a crazy thing during your time?
It wasn't. That come in right near the end. I retired in 2001, and that was just coming into vogue, like in the Wanaha. And I guided down in Nevada in the Rubies and the northern Nevada country on what they call the Wine Cup Ranch. And it's huge down there when I was retired. It's huge. I mean, to the point where Nevada closed off areas in certain time periods where people couldn't even go in there.
Yeah.
But no, it was just coming into vogue when I retired.
Another real hot button issue today, and I don't know if issue is even the right word, but it's something some people are kind of heated up about, is the Native American harvest of trophy animals. And some folks may be shooting, 3 big bulls a year, odd times a year. Has that always been the case?
We had a lot of the Native Americans hunt in Wallowa County when I was working. We dealt with quite a few of them. One of the biggest things that bothered me about that was the wastage thing that went on. Whether you're for or against their rights to do so, have at it, but by God, take care of that meat, period, And most of the tribes have tribal laws, fish and wildlife laws. They can allow X amount of deer, X amount of elk type thing. And of course, we worked on the selling of that by some of the Native Americans. That was the biggest issue we dealt with, was the commercialization of it.
Right. So there is a market hunting component to it.
Oh yeah. But there were some really neat folks. I met people out in Chesnee, Nez Pierce, that would come up and live in California just to hunt, September, take home a cow or a bull, and we'd have some great conversations about this very thing you and I were just talking about. And they were rabid, how wrong that was, by their people doing the wastage or selling of, compromising their rights.
Yeah.
To do it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying anything one way or another. Like, treaty rights are treaty rights.
Yep.
That's not for me to weigh in on what was written in the 1800s. But I think anybody who's hunting should do their best to take care of meat, for sure.
Period.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is something that seems to be like gaining attention right now, and is probably a difficulty, I would think, for wildlife biologists to manage because there's not a lot of reporting that goes on around it. It's definitely in addition to the controlled harvest that
Right.
the state is able to manage, and I know it's got to be difficult for game wardens trying to suss out like what's legal and what's in their jurisdiction and what's not.
That's pretty well defined.
Got to
You
be
know?
tricky.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously federal lands they can hunt on, But yeah, I know Vic, when I was working, Vic worked real close with the biologist for the Nez Perce tribe in Lewiston. So
I'm impressed with the wildlife management from the Colville Reservation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, those guys seem to be taking it pretty seriously.
Huh.
Yeah,
Good for them. I think they should.
yeah, and that's the Chief Joseph band that was native to here is part of the Colvilles.
Right.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear one more good game warden story.
They're all good.
Yeah.
Some are just better than others.
Yeah.
I've met some really neat people out there, kind of lifelong friend type people. And, there's a couple citations I wish I would have taken back or wouldn't have given a couple of times in my career. Those folks are past now, but yeah, it was a fun career, James. It really was.
If you had to start it over today, if for some reason, like you had to go be a new game warden today in today's time, how do you think it would go?
I'd probably be in Alaska.
Yeah.
Flying up there as a flying game warden.
Yeah.
The only county I'd probably work in Oregon would be Wallowa County, maybe Malheur.
Yeah.
Harney County down there.
I think we're blessed to have really good game wardens here.
Yeah, I talk to them
Yeah.
regularly. And
Yeah.
Good guys.
I do too.
Try to pass on a few of my bits to them,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, if I have questions, that's my first phone call. And usually the answer is, I don't know, talk to the district attorney.
Well, one thing about being a police officer, you don't know everything. And the worst thing you can do is tell somebody something that's not right. Instead of saying, hey, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll get it back to you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's easy.
Yeah.
And I think people respect you for doing that, but I got calls all hour of the day and night, and I enjoyed them. I mean, my wife didn't necessarily at times, but no, you just gotta. You can't be an 8 to 4 person being a game warden. Period.
Yeah.
I know some of the officers I worked with over the years. They became 8 to 4 wardens. And I thought that was the worst thing that they could ever do. I mean, it was a disservice to the public. Period, and the wildlife and fisheries that you're trying to protect out there. But
I got a fun question from a guy today because spearfishing is legal in Oregon now for bass and walleye in moving waters statewide, which is awesome. It's something I've been working on for a long time, and
Really?
I know a lot of biologists worked on it as well. Would love to see it get open to more species, but we're starting out with bass and walleye. So
I didn't know
we're going to
that.
be able to spearfish for bass in Hell's Canyon this year, and I think it's just going to be a blast. But a follower who I know listens to the podcast as well wrote in today, and he said, "Do I need a hunting license or a fishing license to go spearfishing?" And I love that question. First of all, it's a fishing license, but there's so much about it that is hunting that it tickled me that this is a real question from a real person, and it helps tease at how similar all this stuff is. And we tend to really separate fish and wildlife, wet or dry, but the similarities really start to overlap. And then when you get to the point of using a projectile to harvest them, like now it's kind of a legitimate question. Do we need a fishing license or a hunting license?
That is a real good question.
We need a fishing license, but I love it. I love it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and I guess I would urge folks out there, don't be shy to talk to these people. I'm talking about wardens right now. Sometimes they're shy. They don't want to talk. Not that they don't want to, but they're shy to engage. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I was at times.
Yeah.
I can remember as a young officer in Ontario, in Malheur County. Don't ask me to get up and talk in front of people. I mean, my legs start shaking. I joined, what was the name of that club? Anyway, basically, it was a club where you learned how to talk in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
And me and the fish biologist here, Wayne Bowers, we joined the Toastmasters.
Yeah.
For the sole reason of getting ourselves up in front of people to talk.
Yeah.
Well,
the way I look at it, whether you're a hunter or a guide or a game warden or just somebody who appreciates and cares about wildlife and wild places, you're all trying to protect this resource, and you're all enjoying it in one way or another. And I want to have good relationships with those guys, because there's probably an equal chance that at some point I'm going to need their help, or at some point they might need mine. Yep. And like, beyond just, it's better to have good relationships with people. In either of those situations, we better have a good relationship going into it. Yeah.
Totally. Yep. Yeah. Just the other day, I come home and I noticed up there at the corner above our house, there was a pickup in the ditch. So I just went in, got my coveralls on, went out and threw a bunch of chains and cable and a snatch block in my front end loader on my tractor and headed up there. And I get up there and this he'd ran off the road and he was stuck. But there's no way with the icy conditions I was going to get him out. But he said, "What'd you come up for, Bill?" I said, "I've been in that situation before."
Yeah.
I mean, payback, bottom line, So,
yeah. Well, sir, I always love the stories. And like I told you on the phone yesterday, I have this deep fear that if we don't record conversations like this, that this generational knowledge might get lost. And there's no need for it. Like it's really important that we move forward with an understanding of how we got to where we are.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing, James. I think one of the most things that's moved me about what you're doing is when I've seen pictures of you and your dad down in the legislature giving talks. Kudos to you, buddy.
How wild is that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty interesting. But yeah, you just got to kind of set the example when you can and stand up and say what's important to you. Try to have numbers on your side when you do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good luck truck hunting tomorrow.
I'll remember a good story next time I come.
Okay. Sounds good. And enjoy that book.
I will do that. I need that book.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time out of their busy lives to write a review for the show and share it with their friends. I'm extremely proud of how intelligent, engaged, and adventurous this audience is. Original music for the Six Ranch podcast is written and performed by Justin Hay. Art for the Six Ranch podcast was created by John Chatelain and digitized by Celia Harlander. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.